Okay, hi guys, a very good evening. Can y'all let me know if y'all can hear me and also see a screen? Yes. Can hear, can see. All good. Yeah, right. Nice. So we'll start off with the MCQs. So if you all remember my last class, we started off unit number 2 and 3. Today, I'm not going into a little bit of current context because I want to again finish off the MCQs at least today. So today we need to start off with the 2019 new syllabus paper, the MCQs from there. And the target is to finish off until 2025. The essay questions, we'll see. If we have time, we will move into the essay questions. If not, essay questions, we can do it the next class. So target is at least we are going to finish off the MCQs. Okay, so I will share my screen and we will get started. A-level applications, I wanted to get back to you all on that. A lot of people had asked me different things. So if I'm not mistaken, yes, A-level applications are open. School candidates, you all don't have to worry. The school will do the necessary things for you. For those who are doing it privately, you will have to apply. There is a month, but please don't wait until the very end. Make sure you go through the application form. And I think the easiest thing to do is, Lamai, get in touch with a senior, if you all know, who did A-levels privately. Probably someone who did A-levels last year. If you all know someone who did it privately, get in touch with them because they will know the process even better than me, because I don't fill out the form or do anything. All what I do is I also watch what is there on the form. That's it that I have, but I don't go into specifics. So if you all have any questions, you can always ask. I will also check and get back to you. But compared to me, someone who did last year privately would be your best option to check with. Do you need the leaving certificate? Yes, if I'm not mistaken, for those who are doing A-levels privately, you need to have your school leaving certificate. Ideally, if you left after O-levels, that leaving certificate you need to have. The reason for that is, Namai, because there was a lot of complaints, usually school students who are doing A-levels, let's say in 2027, for the fun of it, they also try to do in 2026. So then that is a big cost for the government, right? They have to print papers because they will, anyway, their proper year is 2027. But while going to school, just for the fun of it, they come and do it in 2026 for the exam experience. So to avoid that, school students doing things like that only, they ask you for the leaving certificate. That is where that rule came in. So private candidates, you will have to have your leaving certificate. School people, for the fun of it, you can't do 1 year early. It doesn't work like that. It's a serious exam. Government is not going to spend time marking your paper and all of it. The attendance will not be a big issue, Lamai. That depends on school to school. Usually, yes, schools force you to, have that 80%. Yeah, leaving certificate is for private candidates. School people, don't worry. So in terms of this, yeah, so school people also, Lama, you have to go to a school to sign the documents, but they will do the documentation and everything for you, but you have to go to this thing. School students, if your school is very strict on the 80%, just have a look. But usually I remember when I was going for school also, right, at St. Thomas's, they were also very strict with the 80% attendance, but then they allowed everyone to do the exam. Like they did not uh, deny anyone from doing it. They let everyone do it. The only reason they have that rule is, Dhamma, because some people never go to school. You never go to school, but you sit from school and you fail the exam. And when you fail the exam, that goes as a black mark for the school. It's not fair to put that result to the school. You never go to school, you just play the fool and wait. And then when the results come, the school's results only looks bad. That is why they have that 80% attendance rule. So in our school, I remember even those with 60%, 70% attendance, they let all those people write. For those who had really low attendance, what they did was they called the parents. Parents had to come and meet the sectional head. The sectional head explained, look here, your child doesn't have attendance. In case the child fails the exam, we won't take responsibility. So let's say you have very bad attendance, you have only, let's say, 40%, 50% attendance. So what they did at St. Thomas's during our year, they let the students write. but they warned the parents and kept, look here, your child hasn't come. 40% attendance means more than half the time they haven't come. So then they said, if your child fails, don't blame us. We will not take responsibility, but we will allow them to write as a school candidate. So usually schools will do that. They will not be very strict with the thing. And, if you have, let's say, 80% and if you have 75%, they will tell you do privately. I haven't heard any school do it like that. So don't worry too much. Usually schools do it because otherwise no one comes to school. No? So they also have to be occupied. So they product scare you with different stuff, but don't worry too much. They will let you do it. And especially if you're someone who can get like a A or something, even if your attendance is low, they will let you write because that's a good result for the school. So don't worry too much. Can get that done. Right. So I've got a few questions also. I will leave it there. Classical culture. Nice. So I hope most of you all have been having exams these days, and I hope the exams have been going good. I hope you all have been. I think this is not your last exam, neither. You have one more exam after this, correct? Or is this your final last one? This is your fourth term one. So there is two more. Really? Okay, I'm not very sure. If it's fourth term, that means there's two more. I don't know. I don't know how schools work now, whether they finish in fifth terms or whether they do it more. Because I think, yes, they will have now. This is March, no? So they might have another one in another 3 months. I don't know if they have time to have another one, a withdrawal paper kind of. We'll see. Right, so we'll see how it goes. But on your end, get the papers done. Right. Why does 2019 have two papers? I explained last class. You missed the class. I will upload the recording. You can go to that. Okay, so we'll start with Lamai, the 2019, the new syllabus paper, starting with question number 5. So target for today, Lamai, I will try to wrap off by around 9:30. But to finish off by 9:30, I will only finish off all the MCQs only and finish at least. If we have time, we'll go to essay questions. If not, at least the MCQs. Okay. Did you all watch the video I sent you? Especially to answer this question, you need to know that area on income effect, substitution effect, price effect, that story. I told you last class, and I told you if you don't know this part, I will send you a video, at least watch it. Last week's recording is not yet uploaded. I will upload it soon. Okay, right. So starting with question number 5. Now, I'm not going into very basics, Lama, because I expect you all to know the basics. If you didn't know the basics, I expected you all to watch that video where I have explained it and come. Okay. The table below shows substitution and income effects of a price change of good X. Which of the following represents the correct combination of substitution and income effects? So they're talking about a normal good, they're talking about an inferior good, they're talking about different price changes. They're talking about quantity demanded due to substitution effect, quantity demand due to income effect. Now, this itself is a bit of a difficult question, Namai, because you need to know a lot of things. You need to go one by one to figure this out. So I will go one by one until we get a correct answer. Otherwise, the entire day I will be looking at this question. Okay. So we'll start with Lamai question number, option number 1. Option number 1 says there is a inferior good and the price of it is coming down. So for those who watch the video, for those who know this concept, you all can give me an answer. So they're asking, they are not asking you whether the effect is negative, positive. No, they're asking what will happen to quantity demanded because of the substitution and income effect. I have explained. So when the price of an inferior good comes down, what happens, Lamai, due to the substitution effect? Can you all tell me, Lamai, what happens to relative price? When the price of your good comes down, your relative price or your price of your good compared to other goods will come down. Lama. Your good becomes relatively cheaper. When your good becomes relatively cheaper, what will happen to quantity demanded? Quantity demanded will increase, right? What happens to the income effect, Lama? Income effect. When the price of an inferior good comes down, what happens to your real income or your purchasing power? When goods become cheap, your real income or purchasing power increases. When your real income or purchasing power increases, Lamai, what happens to the amount of inferior goods you buy? Now, if you can afford better goods, if you can afford more, You buy less inferior goods. No, you try to get the better version. Now you go to the better one. So quantity demanded for inferior goods will start coming down. So we'll look at the first answer, see if that is correct, Lamai. First answer says inferior price falls. Due to substitution effect, QD decreases. Wrong. Due to substitution effect, I said QD is increasing. So first one is wrong. We can also look at no. Second and third is price is rising. So we look at that then. Inferior good. Inferior good. If the price increases, can you all tell me, Lamai, how does the substitution effect work? When the price increases, what happens to the relative price of that good? That is price of your good compared to the other good. Your relative price increases. If your relative price increases, Lamai, what happens to QD? QD will start coming down. And then in the income effect, sorry, I don't write that down. Income effect is there. What happens? Your real income comes down when the price of the good increases. Real income comes down. When real income comes down, Lamai, what happens to the amount of inferior goods you buy? The amount of inferior goods you buy will actually increase. Then look at, Lamai, the second answer and see if that is correct. Inferior good, when the price rises, due to substitution effect, QD is decreasing. Due to substitution effect, QD is decreasing, correct. That box is correct. Due to income effect, QD is decreasing, wrong. Due to income effect, what happens? QD will increase. So wrong. That. When the price decreases, how does real income increase? Real income means, Lama, your purchasing power. Real income is not your salary. So real income is with your money, how much of goods you can buy. So when goods become cheaper, now with your money, you can buy more goods. No, you can afford more. That is what you say real income. That's why we say real income increases when price comes down. Okay, watch that video if you have not understood the concept. So 2 is also wrong. Then let me look at number 3. Inferior good when price rises. QD has to decrease. Wrong. This part is wrong. So then all the first answers, Lamai, answer 1, 2, and 3 are wrong. All the inferior good parts are wrong. Then we look for a normal good. We look at answer number 4. Answer number 4 is saying normal good. So you all tell me how it works. Normal good. Substitution effect. When the price of the normal good falls, okay, when the price of the normal good falls, what happens, Lamai? Your relative price. Relative price means what, Lamai? The price of your good compared to other goods. So when the price of your good comes down, Lamai, your good is relatively more cheaper. So your relative price also falls. When your relative price falls, Lamai, what will happen to your QD? People will buy more. Your good is cheaper. They will now buy more. QD will increase. Then income effect. When the price of your good comes down, Lamai, what happens to real income? Purchasing power. Purchasing power increases. If purchasing power increases, Lamai, for a normal good, you will buy more of it, right? Quantity demanded will increase. Right. That is the normal good story. See if that aligns with answer number 4 then. Answer number 4 says, normal good when the price falls, according to substitution effect, QD increases. Correct. According to income effect, also QD increases. Correct. So that can then be your answer. We will go with answer number 4. How many of you got that correct? Not a khana shot correct, but logically you know how this is. You figured out one by one and got it correct. If you are getting it correct properly, logically, this is how it works and you got it, you're at a very good level. Because this, I would say, is the most difficult part of unit number 2. Even some teachers at sometimes are confused. I told you last year, right? Last class, a teacher also told me they watched my video and figured this out, Kela. So that part, if you have understood, Lamai, I think unit number 2 is ideally sorted. Other parts are actually easy. Inferior good when real income increase, why does QD decrease? Because that's an inferior good, right? When your real income increases, Lama, you now tend to buy better stuff. Now, for example, if your purchasing power is higher, instead of buying margarine, now you will buy butter. So if your real income goes up, you will stop buying margarine, buy butter. So margarine demand will come down. Inferior good, QD decreases. Okay. Right. Okay. Nice. Fast track also, yes, we have done questions. Then next question number 2019, question number 6. That's the easy one. Which the following would shift the supply curve to the left? How is relative price? I think for you who asked me the question earlier, I explained relative price again. Please listen. If you missed, go back to the record. How is this now? How do you get this? When will the supply curve shift to the left? Shift to the left means supply will decrease. This question was repeated so many times. When will the supply decrease, Lamai? If, let's say, your cost of production increases or price of your inputs increase, supply will shift to the left. I hope no one else has any other answer. All the other answers won't. Remember, Lamai, a decrease in the price is not a leftward shift. That's a decrease in quantity supplied. It's not a decrease in supply. Okay. So 6 is number 1. Question number 7. If the demand for public transport service decrease when a person's income increase. So they are saying when a person's income is going up, the demand for public transport is coming down. There is a negative relationship between income and demand. So that good is a what line? It's a what are the goods that have a negative relationship between income and demand? The goods with a negative relation with income and demand is what you call an inferior good. Now, can it also be a given good? Maybe it could, but we don't have information to prove it. So a given good is a special type of an inferior good. In addition to having a negative relationship with income and demand, it should also have a positive relationship between price and quantity. So price and quantity demand in the question they haven't talked about. So we don't know. So we can't go to given then. We'll have to stop at inferior. Right? Easy question. Don't overthink. Then question number 8. Question number 8 is saying, the diagram below shows the market demand curve for good X. Change in market equilibrium quantity from point A to point B would have most likely been caused by. Question 6 answer was number 1. If you all miss a question, go to your past paper book. The answers are there. Right. So they're asking you, how can you go to a market equilibrium from point A to point B? Now, in this question, don't you think for you to have market equilibrium, there should also be a supply curve? Just having a demand curve is not enough. Yeah, price effect, normal, inferior, both are negative. You have to have a supply curve here. So ideally, there is an imaginary supply curve over here, which they are not talking, because otherwise, how do you get market equilibrium? Demand and supply has to be together to get market equilibrium. So they're asking you, how can you go to an equilibrium from point A to point B? So can you picture this diagram? This is where your picturing skills are important. Can you picture this and tell me, right now, based on point A equilibrium, how can you go to a point B equilibrium? Which curve has to shift where? Tell me. How do you go to equilibrium at point B? Should the demand curve shift? Should the supply curve shift? How do you go to equilibrium at point B? If the supply curve shifts, no? If your supply curve, shifts to the right, while the demand doesn't change, demand is still at the same place. If the supply shifts to the right, that means an increase in the supply, then you can go to equilibrium at point B. So then, now you need to picture that, Lamai. So after you picture that, now go to the answers and see which answer can connect with the point of supply increasing, supply shifting to the right. Which answer talks about a supply increase, Lamai? Increase in price of substitute that affects demand. Demand doesn't have to change. Income, demand, income, demand. Decrease in cost of production, yes. If the cost of production comes down, supply will increase. If the supply shifts to the right, if it increases, then you can go to an equilibrium from point A to point B. Decrease in supply, no, it has to be an increase in supply. That's how you think about these questions, Lamai. Question looks hard, but you have to break it down, picture it. Right? See, this is how you can come there. Then what could be the answer then? That has to happen from you. Okay, then that's question 8. Moving into question 9. Question 9 is saying, assume a hypothetical competitive market in which equilibrium is 100. Now assume that the market supply curve changes from being elastic to become inelastic at each price, and the market equilibrium price does not change. What is the effect of this change on consumer and producer service? Again, Lama, you all can draw. Okay, so they are saying this has gone from elastic to being inelastic. They're asking what is happening to consumer and producer plus supply curve only has changed. Demand curve hasn't really changed. So I'll draw and show you, Lamai. Watch carefully. So let's say this is your demand curve. This is your supply curve. So right now you have an elastic supply curve. So I'll draw a flatter one. And then you all know, Lamai, this area is consumer surplus. This area, green area, is the producer surplus. So now what has happened? The supply curve that was elastic, they are saying, has started to become inelastic. It has started to become more steeper. So if your supply curve becomes more steeper, Lamai, so equilibrium point hasn't changed. Okay? Now this is your new supply curve. What do you think happens, Lamai, to your, look at this and tell me what happened to consumer surplus? Did that change? Just because the supply elastic became inelastic? Did consumer surplus change? Consumer surplus? No, consumer surplus was unchanged. What happens to producer surplus, Lama? Earlier it was that green one, now these parts are also getting added. Producer surplus is increasing. No? So if you can, these are not difficult questions, Lama. If you can logically picture the diagram, you can get the, you don't have to draw this diagram in your A-level paper. Just think, maybe close your eyes and think. Now, to logically picture that, that is where your practice is important. So the more and more questions you do on this end, you should be able to picture, this is what it is, right? If it's moving, and this is how it is. So that comes with practice. So please do, Lama, and especially one more big advice I will give y'all, whether you're in my fast track program or not, doesn't matter. These last 4 to 5 months, Lama, work a lot on questions. Now, some of you all have this whole logic where I will learn all the theory, then only I will do questions. That is the worst possible thing that you can do, Lama, because if you are with that mentality, you might finish your theory, let's say 1 month before the A-level. If you finish it 1 month before the A-level paper, Lama, you don't have time to do questions. So 1 month before the A-level paper, you have 3 subjects. 1 month for 3 subjects means for one subject, you have only 10 days. So in 10 days, how many papers are you going to do? So what I will recommend is you study a unit, do all the questions from that unit, move to the next unit. Do it that way. I will learn all theory, then I will start past papers. Won't work long. So it's okay. You don't have to do full papers. For now, do the papers unit wise. Later you can do the full papers. If you are with the mentality that I will study everything, then I will do full past papers, all 50 MCQs, all 10 essay questions. Not gonna work. Later you do that, that's fine, but start doing it now itself, at least unit by unit. Or if you were there in my revision class, you remember I broke it even further, focus area by focus area. Start doing. Okay, right. So which one is the answer for this? Question 9. Answer number unchanged and increases. Answer number 3. Question 9, number 3. Then going into question 10. Diagram below shows the market demand and supply curves for a normal good. The market equilibrium price could rise from P1 to P2 if the equilibrium price could rise from P1 to P2. So think of Lamai now. Here again, your picturing skills are important. I'll show you 2 ways how the equilibrium price can rise from P1 to P2. Okay. Think about the demand and supply. One way it can go from P1 to P2 is if the supply decreases. If your supply curve shifts to the left, then equilibrium can be at P2. That is one possible option. Another possible option where you can have equilibrium at P2 or equilibrium price at P2 is if the, what happens? If the, picture this now, you should be able to tell me. How can you go to this one? One is if supply decreases. The other one is if demand increases. Now, if your demand increases, demand curve shifts to the right, then also you can go to an equilibrium at price P2. So then look for an answer that goes in line with that. Look for answer that either the demand is increasing or the supply is decreasing. Elasticity doesn't matter, Lama. Elasticity just changes the shape of the curve. No need elasticity. Okay. So number one, consumers' income has increased. Would be our answer. If income increases, Lama, demand will increase. Then you can go to equilibrium at point at price P2. We'll look at the others also quickly. Price of complementary increases. Complementary price increases, then Lama, people will buy less of the complementary, they will buy less of our one also because both are bought together. No? Wrong. Demand will come down here. Cost of production was lower, then supply will increase. Subsidies increase, supply will increase. P2 as maximum price, no point, Lama. No point setting a maximum price above equilibrium. Because if you set a maximum price above equilibrium, it will come back to equilibrium. Above equilibrium, you set Lama minimum prices. So that is also then. So all of this, Lama, do you see? If you can picture most of these questions, it's very easy to get it done. So play around. That skill you need to develop that comes with practice. Yeah. Then question 11. Question 11 says, assume that in a private higher education institute, the internet service was first made available to students at no charge. Later on, the institute decided to charge 100 rupees per hour. And they're asking you the loss in consumer surplus. Now, I remember at our uni also, at Colombo Uni, they give you free Wi-Fi. And the speed is also very good. Huh? So free Wi-Fi, and at uni also, they have all these study area. So at local uni, it's nice. At local uni, it's nice for couples also, nice for, you can go on weekends and study. There are big study like outdoor areas that you can study, like you're in a park, right? You can, stay on, you get like a park feeling. There are enough and more couples. There are areas where only couples can go also. You have your freedom. No one's going to come and intervene. Lecturers are not going to come and say anything if they see you with a couple. You have your own freedom at a local uni. That's one thing that they always will keep, right? At a local uni and all, if they try to put CCTVs and all, students start protesting. So CCTVs will never work at local unis. I remember at our local uni, they were planning to put fingerprint machines to take attendance. Now, attendance also, we play the fool sometimes without going. You ask your friend to sign for you. Because if your attendance is low, they don't let you sit for the exam. You need 70% attendance. But usually what happens is someone who goes, you send your signature. There is a physical paper to sign. They will sign on behalf of you. That's how it works. But if you keep a fingerprint, I think that person can't do it. So they were planning to implement those also, but it never happened because students don't like it. Yes, you need to have your freedom. So no CCTVs, no this thing. I'm not sure if now they have, I don't think, but those don't happen. So then we also had this free internet and it was very fast. Now at uni days, you are not rich enough to afford unlimited internet and all. No, right? You also have these basic data packages. You all are not earning. So we watch movies, we download movies, we update all our apps on the phones. We do all of that. So think of it a situation like that. So if the universe giving my internet for free, then which area is consumer surplus? If the universe giving internet completely for free, that means that my price is zero. No? If price is zero, then this quantity of 600 would have been purchased. So this entire thing would have been consumer surplus. But now, if they charge Lamai a price of 100, now which area is consumer surplus? Now only this blue area becomes consumer surplus. So question is asking you the loss in consumer surplus. So you have to calculate consumer surplus before and after, and then get to that. So how much is the consumer surplus before Lamai? CS before half into base is 600, height is 150. How much do you all get? 45,000 before. Okay. So consumer surplus before is 45,000. Consumer surplus after is CS after they introduce this price, half into base is 200, height is 150 minus 100, that is 50. Half into 200 into 50, that is 5,000. Now, is 5,000 our answer? They're asking you for the loss in consumer. Some of y'all do everything and go and underline the wrong one. They're not asking what is the new consumer surplus. They're asking for the loss in consumer surplus. So which one is the loss? My 45,000 has gone to 5,000 and it has fallen by a 40,000. Previous question, why number 5 can't come, Lama? Because maximum prices are not set above equilibrium. I explained that before. Just pay attention. Okay, that's question 11. Then question number 12. 12 is saying, the table below shows the demand and supply schedules for a consumer before and after the imposition of a unit tax. They're asking you, what was the tax per unit and the amount of price change after tax? Now, do you remember my last week when we did a question, I showed you to find the tax per unit. I showed you a diagram-based method to get this. Easy one. You can work backwards from my other method also, but all of you all don't know my other method. Remember, I showed you a diagram-based method. Shall we try to implement that? So they have this one. Okay. Now we'll take my two common quantities that are there. Okay. So here, earlier at price 65 only, they supplied 550 units. I'll just mark that price 65. Let's say this is 550 units. So this is the, let's say, supply curve earlier. Right? It doesn't have to elastic, inelastic, doesn't matter. Let me just draw a normal supply curve. Okay, this is our supply curve before the tax. Now see, to supply 550 units. Now, Lamai, after the tax, the price is 75. Now, at the price of 75 only, they will supply 550 units. Earlier, the first point was this 65 and 500. Now, the second point is 75 and 550. So, meaning your supply curve is going like this now. Okay. This is your supply curve after tax. It has shifted to the left. So, how do you find your unit tax, Lamai? Your unit tax is the vertical difference between the two supply curves. What is the vertical difference between my two supply curves here now? What's this vertical difference? That is my unit tax. How much is that? That is this 10 rupees. That's how you can find it now. Now, you don't have to draw all these diagrams. What you can do is, Lamai, you can picture this. Okay. So here, earlier at price 65 only, they supplied 550. Now, at the price of 75 only, they are supplying 500. So take a common quantity for both. So maybe 600 and 600, 650, 650, right? So take the common quantity and then see what is the price they supplied earlier, what is the price they are supplying it now. That is the vertical difference. So then you can say, Anna, tax is 10 rupees. Then that is not the only question. The question is also asking, Lamai, what is the amount of the price change? When you say amount of price change, Lamai, that is equilibrium price change. So can you tell me, before the tax, look at only the first two columns. Tell me, Lamai, where is the thing at equilibrium at what price? Before the tax, I will erase this. Before the tax, at what price were you at equilibrium? You were at equilibrium here, no, here. Quantity demanded 650, quantity supplied 650. You were at equilibrium at price 75. Now, after equilibrium, see where you are at after tax, where you are at equilibrium. Quantity demanded is 650. That's a perfectly inelastic QD. Now, where are you at equilibrium? 650, 650 here. Now your equilibrium price is 85. Now here the change in the price is also 10 rupees. Now, does this have to be the same, Lamai, always? Does the tax and the change in the price always be equal? It doesn't have to. In this question, can you tell me, Lamai, why is the tax and the change in the price equal? Tax and the change in the price is equal means, Lamai, consumer is bearing the entire tax burden. Why is the consumer bearing the entire tax burden? Now, you all should be knowing these are what advanced points now. Why is the consumer bearing the entire tax burden? Consumer is bearing the entire tax burden, Lamai, because if you can see, the demand is perfectly inelastic. We know if demand is perfectly inelastic, the consumer will bear the entire tax burden. So those things, if you can figure out now, you're at good levels. Now, my question is not going to that level, but you should think, how is the tax and the change in price? Change in price is what you call the consumer's tax burden. So then tax is 10 rupees and the price is also increasing by 10 rupees. That means consumer is bearing the entire tax. Then how can the consumer bear the entire tax? Two situations. One, either demand has to be perfectly inelastic. So that is what you call perfectly inelastic demand. QD is constant. Or supply has to be perfectly elastic. That is not the case. No? So then you need to think. Right. So which one is the answer, am I there? 10 and 10. Answer number. Right. Then we go to question number 13. Now, Lamai, again, when I tell you all to do past papers, again, the point is, Lamai, remember that analysis part has to come from you, okay? So when you all do past papers, Lamai, also think, why did I go wrong? Where can I improve? How can this question be changed in another way? So the same question, what if they gave you subsidy now? Can you do that? Okay. So you need to think about those ones because that is how the examiner will make your paper. They won't copy and paste this to your paper, but they will take this logic, the knowledge, change it around, put it in your paper. So when you're doing questions, think. And like I said before, all the difficult questions you all are doing, Lamai, if it's a difficult, good question for you, highlight it and come from now onwards. Then one day or 2 days before the A-level paper, you can get that done. What would happen if the supply is perfectly last? The numbers will then be, Lamai, the quantity will be different, price has to be the same. They can't give you numbers like that for that. Z score of 8, average mark, I will feel at least around 80 to 85. Okay, question 30. The diagram below shows the price of a competitive market for an agricultural commodity. They've given an elastic demand curve, inelastic supply curve. If the government grants a subsidy, how will the economic surplus be distributed between producers and consumers? Can you tell me, Lamai, if the government gives in a subsidy here, who gets most of the benefit? Remember, higher the inelasticity, higher the subsidy benefit. No? So producer might not get that. Does the producer get the entire benefit or a major part of the benefit? What do you think? Producer gets a major part, Lamai. So producer gets a major part of the benefit. The subsidy benefit. Remember, I'm not going into the theory, logical stories. I hope you all know your theory. So you all know, Lamai, when a tax subsidy is being granted, whoever who is inelastic, comparatively more inelastic, that person, Lamai, will get more of the benefit. That person's economic surplus will increase more. So if you look at this question, supply is inelastic, demand is flatter or elastic. So given that supply is inelastic, that's why I'm saying the producer will get more of the benefit. You can draw and see, Lama. You can shift the supply curve to the right, look at the producer surplus, economic surplus, consumer surplus changes. If you draw it also, you will see the producer gets it. But I'm not going into that. No, subsidy level, supply curve is shift to the right. So which one is the answer? A majority of surplus will go to the producer. Yes, for tax all the same level. Tax, if you are inelastic, you get more of the burden. Subsidy, if you're inelastic, you get more of the benefit. That's good for you. Tax, if you're inelastic, you end up getting more of the burden. Okay, so question 13, answer 2. Then question number 14. Setting an effective price flow would. What happens, Lama? A price flow is what? It if the elasticities are equal, Lama, then tax benefit, subsidy burden, subsidy burden, tax benefit will be equal. So if you set a effective price flow, now Lama, the word effective price flow also means, Lama, what? So price flow is a minimum price. So one thing you know, Lama, if you put a minimum price, the producer's surplus can actually increase. But what about the consumer surplus? If you set this minimum price, if it's a effective one, ideally, consumer surplus will Lama, fall down. That will reduce to this. But producer surplus, he might lose a small triangle, but he will gain a comparatively bigger portion. Now here, Lama, they are not talking about, when you say effective here means, Lama, there is no, let's say, for example, there is no shortage. No, black market is in maximum price, don't mean black market here. So when they say effective here, Lama, that means there is no shortage, government is managing the shortage, right? It's an effective one. So producer surplus will increase a bit. This is not a government purchasing excess supply or situation, right? It's not a price support policy that they haven't mentioned. They're just saying minimum price. So you can say consumer surplus comes down, producer surplus increase. Why they say economic surplus? Now they're saying if you have the subsidy benefit, again translates into economic surplus. The word effective here means there is no shortages and all. Now usually when you have a minimum price, the first thing that happens is there is a not shortage. First thing that happens is there is an excess supply, and then there is so much of problems that gets created as a result of that. So here means it's kind of managed. That is what they're saying. Which one is your answer? Requirement for consumer surplus to be 0 if consumer demand is perfectly elastic, then consumer surplus is 0. Answer number 4, decrease in consumer surplus and an increase in producer surplus. If it was a maximum price, it will be the opposite way. Effective minimum price, it's above equilibrium. It is, Lama. So equilibrium price is over here. This is the equilibrium price. The minimum price, I put it over here. No, even if they don't mention effective, Lama, you can assume that it is effective there and say that producer surplus will also increase. Okay. Maximum price will be opposite. So you need to picture that, Lama. It's not me spoon feeding you. You need to know these basics. The word effective means no, it could also mean effective is above equilibrium price because there is literally no point putting it below. So effective means yes, you're putting it above, plus government is also making sure it is effective. Because otherwise producers will give discounts and sell their goods. All of that is there. No, not there's no shortage number. Here there is a surplus. So okay, you can think of effective means think of it as above equilibrium price. That could be an easy way to interpret. Okay. Then, because there is no point setting up minimum price below, it won't be effective. Question 2019 is done. Then we go into 2020. Perfectly inelastic, then the entire tax burden will be borne by consumers. No, consumer surplus and consumer tax burden are two different things. You're trying to confuse two different things together. Okay, so going into 2020, don't worry about the excess supply line, previous question. Effective maximum price, no, there is no black market. Okay. So 2020 question number 5. The law of demand states that, what does it state? A decrease in the price of the goods shifts the demand curve to the left. These are easy questions, Lamai. When other things remain same, the higher price of a good, the lower is the quantity demanded. Correct, right? So when other things are constant, when the price is high, they are saying QD will be low, negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. So all of you all gave me answer number 2. I will leave it there because it's a very easy question. You should know law of demand. Then question number 6. Quantity demanded of a good is. Fast track people, we did this question yesterday. Quantity demand, is it the overall relationship or is it one particular price? Remember fast track people in our paper yesterday? This was a past paper also. Quantity demand is, remember, quantity demand is the amount a consumer is willing to buy at one particular price level. So for example, if the price of a good is 100 rupees, how much is he willing to buy? That is what you call quantity demand. Then what is demand? Demand is everything. Demand is at various different prices. How many units are consumers willing to buy? So this overall thing is demand. Quantity demanded is only one particular act. Let's say, for example, if my class fees is 5,500, how many people are willing to come? That is quantity demanded. Then if I look at, let's say, okay, if my class fees is 4,000, how many will come? 5,000, how many will come? 6,000, how many will come? That is demand. The overall different prices, how many will buy? That's demand. At one particular point, that is quantity demanded. Right? There are essay questions also, will come to that. So which one is the answer now? So 2, 3, and 4 are off. You have 1 and 5 line. Which one's the more correct? Quantity demanded for one particular price. Which one's the more correct one? It's 1, right? The amount that consumers are planning to buy at a particular price. Now here's the they are saying consumers are willing to buy at different prices. Different prices is demand. So give me a second. At one particular prices, this. Last one is demand. Okay. So question 6, answer number 1. Then going into question 7. Which of the following causes an increase in the quantity supplied of good X? Easy thing now. When will the quantity supplied increase? Quantity supplied can increase only if one thing happens. What is that one thing? If the price of good X increases. Anything else, my technology, cost of production, those stuff, that is not an increase in quantity supplied. No. That is an increase in supply. So the fact that they have clearly mentioned quantity supplied means it has to be a change in the price. So which one is the answer? An increase in the price of good X while everything is unchanged. You don't even have to look at the other answers. Only if the price increased, QS will go up. Everything else might, I don't know, I'm not even reading others. Maybe that is a change in supply. There's a non-price determinants that are changed. Easy. Then next one. 2020 question 8. In a competitive market, if both demand and supply increase, what will be the effect on equilibrium price and quantity? First thing, are they saying, are they talking about the proportion? Are they saying demand is increasing more, supply is increasing more, they are increasing equally? Nothing like that. They're just saying, if demand and supply increase, what can happen? So we'll draw and see. So I will show you. Let's say this is our original demand curve, original supply curve. Right now, let's say equilibrium price is 10 rupees, quantity is 100. So if the demand and supply both increase, now by how much is it increasing? We don't know. We don't know if demand is increasing more or supply is increasing more. We don't know. So I'll shift it by equal amount and see. If demand increases, okay, demand is increasing and also supply is also increasing. So how the way I have drawn, both curves are shifting by same proportion. If both curves shift by the same proportion, what happens? Your equilibrium price is constant, but your quantity is definitely increasing. But question hasn't said that they are shifting by the same proportion. Now, what if demand increases more? If demand increases more, okay, then picture this now. If demand increases more, price will increase, quantity will increase. If supply increases more, price will come down, quantity will increase. So depending on the change, and if you want, I'll write that down. If the change in demand, the increase in demand and the increase in supply are both equal to each other, then what happens? Quantity increases, price is constant. If the change in demand is greater, if demand is increasing more than the increase in supply, then quantity will increase, price will increase. And you all draw and figure it out now. You all should be able to know. If the supply is increasing, if the supply is increasing much more than the demand, that means the downward push there, then what happens? Quantity will increase, price will come down. So one thing definitely we can say is, look here, quantity will increase. On the price, Lamai, can we definitely say what will happen? Because they haven't told us. They haven't told us which one of the three. Are they changing equally? Is the demand changing more? Is supply changing more? We don't know. So quantity can either remain unchanged, it can increase or which one is your answer? So sorry, quantity will increase, price can either remain unchanged, increase or decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one? Have I typed answer 2 and 3 in the same? Sorry. No, 2 and 3 is not the same. Answer number 2. 3 says decrease, wrong. Quantity will definitely increase, but price could either increase, decrease, or remain the same. Not hard questions, but you need to know. These are similar questions Lama repeated year after year after year. Okay, next one. Question 9. Suppose the market demand function for a good is given by QD equals 500 minus 5P. What is the arc price elasticity of demand over the price range of 20 and 30? Okay. So first you have to find out, Lamai, at the price of 20 and at the price of 30, how much is the QD? Can you all do that for me? When the price is 20, how much is the quantity demanded, Lamai? Then that is QD is equal to 500 minus 5P. So 500 minus 5 into 20. 5 into 20 is 100. 500 minus 100 is 400. Okay. Then when the QD is 30, how much is the, sorry, price is 30, how much is the QD? Same thing. Now instead of putting 20, you put 30 here. So 5 into 30 is 150. 500 minus 150 is 350. Done. So now you have to find my arc PED. How do you find arc PED? Arc PED is change in quantity demanded over change in price into P1 plus P2 divided by Q1 plus Q2. So simple maths. Change in quantity demanded, 400 is going to 350. That is minus 50. Change in price, 20 going to 30, that is a plus 10. Multiplied by P1 plus P2, that is 20 plus 30. Q1 plus Q2, that is QD1 and QD2, that is 400 and 350. So when you solve this, Lama, I'm not doing the solving for you. Can you tell me how much do we get? Or can't we take as B as minus? You can, yes. So you the B component, Lama, you don't have to take it. You can take it directly as minus 5. So anyway, minus 50 divided by plus 10 is minus 5. No? If you want, you can take it from that itself. No problem. Yeah, this B component, you instead of this, you can put the minus B component. Same thing, same thing. No issue. How much do you get now? What's the answer? Minus 0.33. Yeah. So answer number 2. Again, not a difficult question, Lamai. As long as you know how to calculate arc PED, you can get your answer. That's question. Now, question 10. Question 10 is a very interesting question. Okay. So, yeah, question is asking arc PED. So you have to calculate arc PED. Question directly says arc PED. They mention the word. So question 10 is a very nice question. Try to understand this properly. Okay. Question 10 is saying, demonstrating their generosity at a time of national distress. Remember, this was the COVID year. No? So they tried to put it's not a COVID question, but they tried to put the connect it to like a national issue kind of a thing. So this was the COVID year paper. So under national distress. So during a time of national distress, what has happened? Vegetable farmers in a country decided to sell as much as vegetables as consumers want to buy at half the comparative market equilibrium price. So let's say equilibrium price is 100 rupees. They are selling all at 50. They're asking you, as a result of this action, what will happen? I will show you, Lamai. I will try to picture this for you. Okay. They're talking about economic surplus, consumer surplus, produce surplus. Now, watch carefully. It's a nice, very good question. I think if I did A levels in 2020, I would have got this right. So this is the demand. This is the supply. Men supply, men demand. Right now, this is your equilibrium price. So let's say equilibrium price is 100 rupees. Let's say some vegetable will equilibrium price is 100. People are buying 10,000 kilos. Okay, let's say this is carrot. Kilo of carrot is 100. Now, because of a national distress, what has happened? The farmers are willing to sell this at a don't worry about the elastic, inelastic, not important. Farmers are willing to sell this good lamai at half the market price. So now can you tell me, at what price will the farmers sell? Farmers will now sell the thing at, if my example was 100, now they are selling it at 50. And they are selling this at half the market price. Okay, at 50, 150 නෙවෙයි ළමයි. They are selling it at 50. They are selling, see, vegetable farmer they sell as much as vegetables as consumers want to buy. So consumers want to buy how much? Consumers want to buy, let's say, now 15,000 kilos. So as much as consumers want to buy, the farmers are selling it at half the price. So now I will first show you consumer surplus. Before all of this happened, listen carefully. I'm not explaining this again and again because it won't make sense. So before all of this, do you agree that consumer surplus is this yellow area? Before these farmers came and did this, consumers are paying 100 rupees, buying 10 kilos. This was consumer surplus. Now, when the consumers are getting this benefit, do you agree with me that this area also now gets added as consumer surplus? Because now the consumer is paying only 50 rupees and buying 15 units. Correct? So as a result of this farmer's action, do you all agree that there is a small increase in the consumer surplus? Correct? Okay, that part is fine. Now we'll go to producer surplus. Okay, I will erase this. Producer surplus. Do you agree with me that before all of this, producer surplus was this area, this green area? Producer was supplying 10 kilos at the price of 100. So that was producer surplus. Okay. Now, how much is the producer surplus? Is the now producer surplus that small green triangle? Earlier, it was the big one because they were getting 100 rupees. Now they are getting only 50 rupees. So now the producer surplus has to be that small green triangle. That is where my students make the mistake. Producer surplus would have been that small green triangle if the producer was getting 50 rupees and supplying only this quantity. If they were supplying only this quantity, let's say, for example, 5 kilos, then producer surplus would have been that small green triangle. Producer is not supplying 5 kilos at the price of 50, they are supplying 15 kilos. So then, Namai, how do you look at producer surplus? Do you all remember this equation you all study, Lamai? Producer surplus is equal to producer's total revenue minus total variable cost. Do you all remember that? A little bit of connected to unit number 4 also and 2 also, we learned this equation. Producer surplus is this. In the demand, it's 50. Yeah, producer surplus 50 now because they are saying they are willing to supply as much as consumers are willing to buy. Yeah. So you have to use that concept, Lamai, to figure out the producer surplus. You can't show that producer surplus in this diagram. So I will show you which area is the producer's total revenue. Producer's total revenue here, Lamai, they are getting 50 rupees for a kilo, selling 15 kilos. Producer's revenue is this green shaded rectangle. Do you all agree with me there? Total revenue is that green shaded rectangle. They are selling 50 rupees. They are selling at 50 rupees. They are selling 15 kilos. What is the producer's total variable cost? Producer's total variable cost. You all remember, Lamai, that is the area under the supply curve. No? So this, watch carefully. I'll put that in red. Producer's total variable cost, Lamai, to supply 15 units is that red triangle. That is the producer's variable cost. So from the green area revenue, if you minus the total variable cost red area, you will get my producer surplus. What do you think? Here, do you realize, Lamai, that the producer surplus here can even go negative? Do you see that the red area is much bigger than the green area? Shall we just put some numbers and see? Okay, I'll just give you some numbers for this graph. Let's say this is 150. This starts at 0, let's say. Yeah? Now, so tell me, Lama, how much is the producer's total revenue? 50 into 15. How much is that? 50 into 15? 750. How much is the producer's total variable cost? Can you find the area of the triangle? Half into base is 15. Height is 150. How much is that? Half into 15 into 150. Quickly, give me an answer. You use a calculator if you have. 75 into 15, 1125. Okay. So how much is the producer surplus now? From this, you have to minus this. How much you get as producer surplus? 750 minus 1125. You get a minus 375. How do I get total variable cost? Total variable cost is that red color triangle. That basics you should have learned in unit number 2. Okay. So produce surplus is minus 375. Don't worry too much about the numbers. But what I'm trying to show you here is when this happens, you all agreed, yes, consumer surplus increases. Now, do you agree if I say, LMI, that producer surplus falls and it falls a lot? It even goes into negative territory. Produce surplus earlier was that regular normal triangle. Here, now produce surplus not just falls, but it falls much more. It even goes into negative. Consumer surplus, yes, a small increase happens, but produce surplus fall is much bigger. So overall, what do you think, Lamai, would have happened to economic surplus? Then economic surplus is the addition of the two. Consumer surplus has increased. Produce surplus has fallen so much more because they are getting a very low price, but they still have to supply a huge quantity. So economic surplus would have fallen. Look for an answer that goes in line with this. Which one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Answer number 1. Every other answer will be wrong. Economic surplus will increase, wrong. Not change, wrong. Consumer surplus will fall, wrong. Produce surplus will increase, wrong. And how many of you got this correct? Produce surplus decreases. Now that's what I'm saying. Produce surplus decreases a lot. How do you get the total variable cost area, Lamai? Total variable cost area is, Lamai, the area under the supply curve. Remember, producer minimum wants to cover their average variable cost story. So total variable cost is this red area, Lamai. For the 15 units, the minimum that the producer expects is to cover his variable cost. So area under the supply curve to the quantity that he's supplying is the total variable cost. Okay. So that is how this question comes. Now, the most common mistake that people would have done is, no, here there is no bad harvest, good harvest. It's not a question there, right? The most common mistake people would have done is, Lamai, they would have taken this small triangle as the new producer surplus. That is the most common mistake. That's what I also did the very first time I did this question. I remember after the 2020 paper came out, I also did the paper on my own. The first thing I did was I reduced this. I made consumer surplus, produce surplus this. But then I realized that can't be produce surplus, because for that to be produce surplus, producer has to be supplying, let's say, 5 kilos. Then that is produce surplus. The producer is not supplying 5 kilos, he's supplying 15 kilos. So then you can't show that produce surplus in the diagram there, it just gets negative. You can't show a negative thing in the diagram. That is what I'm trying to take numbers and prove it to. Okay, right. So go with answer one. Normal question, suppose an answer PS decreases comes along. Yeah. So in normal question, if it's this thing, you will come there. Okay. Right. That's a good question. And those are questions you can put a star and keep. Star and keep or highlight and keep. Good learning point for you. Can't really show on the opposite side, I don't think. Okay, question 11. If the income effect of a price change is negative, but the substitution effect dominates. We know this. You all watch the video and came. Income effect is negative. There are two goods. Inferior good income effect is negative. Given good income effect is negative. But substitution effect dominates. Where does substitution effect dominate? In a given inferior good. In a given good, income effect is the more powerful one. So answer inferior good. If they ask factors affecting law of demand, is it income and substitution effect? No, the factors affecting. They won't say factors affecting law of demand. They'll say reasons for law of demand. Factors affecting demand, then is the determinants. Reasons for law of demand, income effects are there. If you get a question saying factors affecting law of demand, then there is a translation error in some school paper which the teacher has used bad words. Question 12. A price ceiling is imposed in a market. So price ceiling means a maximum price. So if you put in a price ceiling, what can happen? So if you put a maximum price, supply, demand, and a maximum price. So if you put a maximum price, now first one says there is a persistent shortage. Shortage means there is a what? There is a excess demand, correct, right? There is a excess demand, or in other words, that is what you call a shortage. So that can be our answer. We look at the other answers. Other answers say like persistent surplus. Surplus, no, that is excess supply. Sellers of the product are better off. No, sellers are getting a lower price. No one is made better off. No, consumers are made better because consumers are getting a lower price. Quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded. No, quantity demand is more than quantity supply. Again, not a hard question, an easy question to directly think. Today, it had a question factors in the law of demand. Yeah, so that's where the school term papers where they make mistakes on this. Which of the following is not a problem associated with imposing a effective price flow? So remember, effective price flow is a price flow put above the equilibrium. So they are asking which of is not a problem. So what is not a problem? You come, you put a price flow. So what is not a problem? Last question, I'm not sure what the answer is, depends on how the question is worded. One, they're saying there is a chronic excess supply. Don't worry about the word chronic, they're saying there is an excess supply. Is that correct? Supply is high, demand is low. There is excess, that's a problem, no? So this is a problem. We are looking for not a problem. So transfer of income from non-agricultural taxpayers to farmers. That can happen, Lama, because for this price flow, if the government comes and let's say provides a deficiency payment or provides a price support government purchase, what is the government doing? They are giving money to the farmer, right? Either they are purchasing it or deficiency payment. How are they giving money to the farmer? Where is the government getting the money? They're charging taxes from us. Government is charging taxes from us and using that money to either do a deficiency payment or price support government purchase. So money is going from us to the farmer's hand. So this is also a problem. Okay. Then large subsidies paid by the government. That could also be a problem. Now, when you have this, right? When you have a price flow, the subsidy part is like the government purchasing the excess supply. So if the government wants the farmer to benefit, they have to pay a huge amount to the farmers. That can be a problem. Higher price for consumers, that is a problem, right? So consumer compared to equilibrium, now he's paying a much higher price. Then emergence of black market prices. Do you have black market prices in a price flow? In a minimum price, do we have black market prices? No, right? Black market prices come in a price ceiling, maximum price. Maximum price, when you have a shortage only, they try to sell at higher and black markets create. Here, there is no black market. So that can be the one that is not a problem. They're asking what is not a problem. So 1, 2, 3, 4 are problems. The fifth one is the one that is not. Right, that is 2020, question 13. Moving on, 2020, question number 40. Market demand function for a product sold in a competitive market is given by the equation 180 minus 2p. Equilibrium price is 65. What is consumer surplus? So draw the diagram, Lamai, quickly get. So if your demand supply, they're saying Lamai, equilibrium price is 65. So first thing you can do is find out how much is the equilibrium quantity. Put that to the demand equation. At 65 rupees, Lamai, how much is the QD? Quantity is 50. Okay. Then what is your maximum demand price? Price when QD equals 0, that is 90. Okay, you all know how to find this. So now find this area. Yeah, how much do you all get? Half into 50 into 25, 625. So if you are struggling to find this, Lama, then you're lost with the basics. You have to work a lot. Okay, that's 2020. Right, so I'll do 21 and give you all a small break. Okay, so quickly, we'll do 2021. 2021, question number 5. When the price of rice increases, it is expected that. What happens now? If the price of rice increases, two things can happen. One is quantity demanded can come down. Second thing is quantity supplied can increase. Law of demand, law of supply. See if the question talks about one of this. Quantity demanded of rice decreases. Yeah, could be number. Right, very straightforward, very easy question. Remember, it's not a demand decrease, it's a quantity demand decrease because it's a price that is changed. Then question 6. Suppose that textile is a key input in the production of apparel. If the price of textiles fall while all other variables are constant, it is expected that. No, rice is not a given. That is, for that they have to give you. I just took rice as an example for a given for a poor household. But here they are not saying rice is a given. So you can't just assume that rice is always a given. Rice is a given good for a very poor household. They have to give you that information. You can't just assume rice is given. Okay. So they're saying, Lamai, textile is an input for apparel. So textile prices have gone up. Now tell me, Lamai, will this affect the demand or the supply? Sorry, textile prices have gone down. That's something to figure out, Lama. Is this a determinant of demand or a determinant of supply? This is price of inputs. Price of inputs is a determinant of supply. Now, so price of inputs have come down. As a result, Lama, what will happen to the supply of apparel? Apparel supply can rise. Will the demand for apparel change? Just because Lama cloth has got cheaper, will we change our demand for this one? We won't, right? So its supply will increase. So answer number 2. Any answer that you all missed, Lamai, please check the past paper book. Otherwise, I have to go up and down. Right, so 6 is number 2. Then, when the supply increase, demand doesn't have to increase, Lamai. Look at the graph. You had equilibrium, now supply will increase. Shift the right. Okay. Question number 7. Supply function of a good is given by the equation QS equals 8P. The moment you see this, you should remember something. If you're not remembering something, then there is a problem. What is the price last of supply? What do you have, Lama? The moment you see there is no A component is 0, you need to know that this is a unitary elastic supply curve. So PES is +1 or -1? PES is always positive. Huh? Law of supply, there is a positive relationship. No, so you get a positive answer 1. Right? We spoke about this in the previous question. Yes. Previous week, when you have a -A component, when you have +A component, we spoke about it, right? Okay, I'm not touching it. I hope you all know. Then question number 8. Suppose market for avocados face 2 simultaneous events. When there is a severe drought affecting the supply of avocado, findings of a research report, right? Reported that avocado contains medical properties which may help avoiding cancer. There are 2 things. So this one is there is a drought. And then a medical report has said that avocado can avoid cancer. How will these 2 events affect the equilibrium price and quantity? Now, tell me, Namai, severe drought kiyanne, what will happen? Supply will increase or decrease? Severe drought means supply is decreasing, right? And then they are saying, Lamai, Anna, there is a medical research saying it will avoid cancer. If it will avoid cancer, everyone will start eating avocados, meaning demand for avocados will increase. So now draw it and see, Lamai, how does it affect equilibrium price and quantity? They haven't talked about proportions here though, right? Which is falling, which is increasing, but that they haven't said. We'll see. Okay. So this is our current, let's say, price of avocado is 100 rupees. 10,000 kilos are bought and so. Supply is falling. So supply curve, I will shift to the left. Okay. Demand is increasing. So demand curve, I will shift to the right. Okay. So if you look at this, Lamai, one thing that you definitely know is what is happening. The price of avocado is increasing. That we know. Now, according to how I have drawn, now I shifted the demand and supply by the same proportion. According to how I have drawn, equilibrium quantity is unchanged. But does it have to remain unchanged now? Has the question told you demand and supply is changing by the same proportion? The amount by which demand is increasing only the amount is the same as the supply fall? They haven't told that. So if demand and supply changes by different proportions, Lamai, the quantity can either increase or decrease or even remain unchanged. So quantity we don't know. Increase, decrease, or remain unchanged. You should be able to picture that now. Now, same thing you had a question earlier. Earlier, the price was indeterminate. So here quantity is indeterminate. So which one is your answer, Namai? Price, you know, will definitely go. Yeah, they can give you questions saying demand increases more than the supply. So then you can get an answer for quantity. But here they haven't told. So price increases, quantity indeterminate. 8, number 4. Then question 9. Suppose the market for good X is currently in equilibrium. Which of the following effects would not cause decrease in both equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity? Right. Which of the following events would not cause? Okay, first of all, Lamai, tell me which one will cause. Currently, this is the equilibrium. When can you picture this and tell me now, when will the equilibrium price and quantity both fall? Equilibrium price and quantity will both decrease if the demand decreases, right? If your demand decreases, then equilibrium price will also come down. Equilibrium quantity will also come down. So you should look supply increase, no, Lama, because supply increase will increase the equilibrium quantity. So what will cause both equilibrium price and quantity both to come down is a decrease in demand. So you have to look for an answer that is not a decrease in demand. They're asking you which of the following events would not cause. Okay, so we look for an answer. An increase in the price of good Y, which is a complement. If the price of complementary good increases, Lamai, your demand will decrease. So if your demand decreases, Anna, this is the diagram. Equilibrium price quantity will both fall, not your answer. Decrease in the price of substitute. If price of substitute decrease, Lama, people will go and buy that. Again, your demand decreases. Again, this will happen. A decrease in the consumer income. Again, demand will decrease. This will happen. Increase in consumer income, which is the inferior good. Inferior good, Lama, if income comes down, what happens? Sorry, income increases. Inferior good, if income increases, again, demand will come down. Again, this will happen. Then, so answer 1, 2, 3, 4 will all shift your demand curve to the left. Then equilibrium price comes down, quantity also comes down. They are asking you for answer where the equilibrium price and quantity both will not come down. Then answer number 5 has to be your answer. Increase in the number of buyers. So when you have an increase in number of buyers, demand will increase. Demand shifts to the right. So if demand shifts to the right, then Lama, you can see equilibrium price going up. So it will not cause a decrease in both equilibrium price and quantity. Again, not hard, but you need to think. Suppose if the question is not increase in quantity and price, then demand will increase. Sorry, I'm not very clear what the question was. So they ask you which one will not cause both of it to come down. So you picture it, get your answer. Question 10. The table below shows the daily market demand and supply. Okay. Suppose the supply of leaves fall by 60 kilos at all prices due to transport cost. What is the new equilibrium price? Very easy, Lamai. So supply falls by 60 kilos at all prices. So make the new quantity supplied. So earlier at price 60, they supplied 310 kilos. Now the new quantity supplied is only 250. So minus 60. At each price, QS is 60 less now. So then 300 minus 60 is 240. Here you have 230, 220, 210. So now compare QD and QS and see where are you at equilibrium? Where is the two numbers equal? Where are the two numbers equal? At 55? Yeah. So at price 55, QD is 240, QS is also 240. So Anna, that is your very simple, easy questions. But people that get scared when there is a table and so much of numbers. And so what do I do? Yeah. Past paper questions are easy compared to fast track paper. Definitely, yes. Fast track paper will be hard. Past papers are manageable. Question number 11. Suppose a rise in the price of a good from 40 to 50 causes a decrease in quantity demanded from 1,600 to 1,400. In this range of the demand curve, the price elasticity of demand is. If you say in this range of the demand curve, are you finding point PED or arc PED? Range has to be arc PE. Right. So then the equation, I wrote it earlier in a question, so I'm not writing it again. Change in quantity demanded, 1,600 going to 1,004 minus 200. Change in price, 40 going to 50. That is plus 10 multiplied by P1 plus P2, 40 plus 50 divided by QD1 plus QD2. How much do you get, Lamai, when you solve this? I am not doing maths for you. You should be able to do the maths. Minus 0.6. Yes. Okay, so you all solve. Answer number 4. I'm going with the answer on the chat box. Right, that's 21, question 11. Then 2021, question 12. The cost to the government of introducing a guaranteed minimum price for a commodity above the free market will be the greatest if. When will the, now a guaranteed minimum price means what, Lamai? If they say a guaranteed price, that also means, Lamai, government is having some sort of a price support policy, meaning there is that excess supply in the market. They're either purchasing the excess supply, or for that excess supply, they are giving a deficiency payment. That's what you say, guaranteed price. The moment you say guaranteed price, that is a guaranteed price, Lama, remember, is a minimum price plus a price support policy. Okay. So where will the government's cost be the greatest, Lama? Government's cost will be the greatest if the excess supply is the greatest. So if you have a huge excess supply, then government has to either buy it, or for that whole thing, they have to give a deficiency payment. So where do you think, Lama, the excess supply will be the greatest? No, effective price is not guaranteed price. That's different. So where will the excess supply be the greatest, Lama? I'll draw you two diagrams. You tell me. One is, no higher than last, nothing like that. This is the demand curve. This is the supply curve. Government has put a minimum price. This area is the excess supply. Right? So for this area only, government has to either purchase that excess supply, or they have to give a deficiency payment. Situation 2, you have an elastic supply curve. You have a elastic demand curve. Elastic supply, elastic demand. Government puts a minimum price. Now, line. Okay. Now your excess supply is this entire thing. Where do you think, Lama, government has a bigger cost? Now, guaranteed payment means government has to do something for that excess supply. They have to either purchase it, put a deficiency payment or something. Can you see, Lamai, when the diagram is elastic, when you have elastic demand and supply, now government has to solve a big amount of excess supply. So cost for the government there would be quite higher in that situation, not when it is inelastic, right? Unit elastic, no, Lamai. So if it's unit elastic, it will be in between these two situations. So the more elastic it is, the excess supply is going to be much higher. So answer you can go with is when demand and supply are both elastic. That is where their cost will be the greatest. If it is inelastic, cost will be the least. A unitary will be in the middle. Okay. Now, you can draw each of these situations and see, Lamai, where is the excess supply the highest. Wherever the excess supply is the highest is where the government will have extra cost. So summarizing that again, each of these situations you draw and see. I'm not drawing everything. They're asking you where will the cost for the government be the highest. My point is the cost for the government will be the highest when the excess supply is the greatest. Because guaranteed price means government has to manage the excess supply. They have to either purchase or provide a deficiency payment. So see where is the excess supply the highest. You draw all 5 situations and see. But I'm telling you, excess supply will be the highest when your demand and supply are elastic. That's the second diagram, my yeah, done. Then the next one, question 13. This is not a hard one. They're saying the diagram below displays the market for good X. The competitive market equilibrium is at point E. Where is E? E is over here. Suppose the government imposes a price of a tax of good X, which area shows the revenue collected by the government and the deadweight loss. Easy, right? So when you have a tax, supply will shift to the left. This is your new equilibrium price. How do you find the area of the tax? From the new equilibrium, draw a line to your old supply curve, connect. So this is the area of the tax. What is that area? I'm not sure if it's clear in your tube. My diagram is a little unclear. N J N F K. Yeah, this one. Okay, and then what is the deadweight loss? Deadweight loss is this small green triangle here. Letters might be a little bad, but yeah. Higher the elasticity, government expenditure minimum. Government expenditure minimum prices happen. Don't come to a conclusion like that, but you can say that, yes. So answer number 4. Okay. Look at the letters. I think your diagram has to be clearer. Is your diagram also the same diagram that is on this, or have I given you all a better diagram? Sometimes when typing, to draw these diagrams, it takes a lot of time, right? That's why. Not that I can't draw this diagram on Word, but if I'm going to sit and draw this diagram on Word, I will be spending around 20-30 minutes drawing the arrows and this and that. So it takes time. That's why I just put a screenshot from the paper. Okay, question 14. Suppose in a competitive market, the equilibrium price is 50. Government intervenes and puts in a minimum price of 60. Demand is 240 minus 3p. What will be impact on consumer surplus? Here, are they saying there is a minimum price with government purchasing the excess supply, deficiency payment? Are they talking about anything like that? Nothing like that, right? So this is just a minimum price. So they are saying, in a certain product, the equilibrium price was 50. Can you tell me, if the equilibrium price was 50, how much is the equilibrium quantity? This is the demand equation, 240 minus 3p, put 50 to this, you get 90. Okay. How much is the maximum demand price? Price when QD equals 0, that is 80. Okay. Can you calculate and tell me, first, how much is the consumer surplus before this minimum price? That is this yellow shaded area. How much? Okay. So half into base into height. I hope you all know. So CS before 1350. Consumer surplus before. Second, CS before is 1350. Okay. Now government has come in, and put a minimum price at 60. So now which area is consumer surplus, Can you tell me at 60 rupees, how many units will consumers buy? What's the demand? Put 60 to the demand equation. You get 60 units. Okay. So now which area is consumer surplus, Now consumer surplus is only this red area. So can you find me this red area's consumer surplus? Half into 20 into 60, 600. Is 600 my answer? 600 is not my answer. They're asking you by how much does it change? So earlier it is 1350, now it is 600, means it has decreased by 750. Answer number 4. So be careful with your individual buyer. They have just given. So maybe the market has only one buyer. Maybe it's like a large scale wholesale buy. Right, that's that. Okay, so then you have 2022. Not sure if we can finish all of this because there's so much of questions. We'll see, we'll try our best. 21 is done. Okay, so we take a small break and then come to 2022. Okay, so it's 8:43. I'll give you a break until 8:50. I will wrap off by around 9:30 because I have a movie to go watch. Starts at 10. So I will finish by 9:30. We'll take a break until 8:50. Yes, Durandar too. Take a break and come. Right, so we'll get started with the 2022 paper. Right, so we'll see how much we can do. We'll do as much as we can. By 9:30, I will wrap off. I would have loved to finish all, but I feel I don't want to rush it for lies. We'll see. Okay, so 2022, question number. Last year, 15 million tons of corn were sold for 30,000 per ton. And this year, 15 million are sold for 25,000. Which of the following changes in demand and supply could have caused this outcome? I did a very similar question also. See, Lamai, how can you get this? The easy way is to draw a diagram, picture the diagram. Okay, so let me draw the diagram for you. Here you have your demand curve, your supply curve. So last year they are saying 15 million were sold at 30,000. So price was 30,000 per ton. 15 million were sold. Now they are saying, Namai, this year 25,000 is the price and they are selling 50. So right now, Namai, equilibrium is at this red dot. Earlier equilibrium was at the blue dot. So how do you go from an equilibrium at the blue dot to an equilibrium at the red dot? If you can't come to an equilibrium at the red dot, then you can sell 15 tons at the price of 25,000. Where should the demand and supply curves change? So you need to picture. You need to shift the demand curves here and there, supply curve here and there to see how you can get. How can you get? So how you can get there is, one, your supply curve has to shift to the right. In other words, supply has to increase. But only supply increasing will not help, because if only supply increases, Lama, your equilibrium is the black dot. Along with the increase in the supply, you also need to have a what? You also need to have a decrease in the demand. If the demand curve shifts left to D1, supply increases, demand decreases. If both of that happens, you can then get to an equilibrium at that red point where the price could be 25,000 and you are selling the same 15 million this year as well. That's how you get that answer. So which one? Supply has to increase, demand has to decrease. Answer number 3. Done. Then question 6. Give me answers on the chat box. So question 6 is, consider that a consumer spent his or her entire income on the purchase of two goods, X and Y. If the consumer's income and the prices of X and Y double, other things remain unchanged, the consumer will. Not that hard, Lama. Which one? The prices have doubled, his income also has doubled. Does it really make a difference then? No, right? His income has gone, let's say, from 10,000 to 20,000 a month. Prices also have increased, let's say, from double. So it won't really make a, that's something now you don't need econ lemma, you need common sense for that question. Okay, so the question there is, answer is buy the same amount of good X and Y, yes, but because it doesn't change the real income. Purchasing power doesn't change. Prices has double, income has also double. So purchasing power has not changed. No, real income won't fall because your nominal income is also increasing. Yes, only if the price increases, Lamai, then you will buy less. But here, along with the price increase, you're also having a doubling of your salary. So it won't make a difference. Number 5. Then question 7. Which of the following helps in explaining why the demand for an inferior good is downward slope? So in other words, they're asking, why does an inferior good have a negative relationship between price and QT? So we'll see. Income and substitution effect move the quantity demand in the same direction. Do they move in the same direction now? If you all remember the 2019 question when we started off today, it moved in opposite directions, right? So answer 1 is wrong. Income effect equals substitution effect? No, substitution effect was more powerful. Negative income effect dominates the substitution? No. The substitution effect dominates the negative income effect, correct? Consumer increases consumption of the good with an increase in income. Answer number. Because the substitution effect, which complies with the law of demand, is more powerful than the income effect, which does not comply with the law of demand. That is where it is. For a normal good llama, substitution effect and income effect will be equal in power. For inferior, substitution is more powerful. For a given, income effect is more. Okay, then question 8. Assume that goods X and Y are complements. What will be the effect on equilibrium price and quantity of good X if an increase in supply of good Y while other things remain unchanged? That's an interesting story, right? So here, let's say Lamai, there is good Y. So they are saying there is a increase in the supply of good Y. So good Y supply is increasing. So when good Y supply increases, they are asking you, what will happen to the equilibrium price and quantity of good X? That is what they're asking. So how do we figure this out is, okay, if the supply of good Y is increasing, what will happen, Lamai, to the price of good Y? Price of good Y will come down. It will decrease. Right. That means the price of your complementary good is coming down. Okay. From that point, now start thinking. If the price of your complementary good is coming down, what will happen to your good, Lamai? This is your current price and quantity. If the price of complementary comes down, Lamai, what happens to the demand for your good? Demand for your good will increase. No? Now, more people will buy the complementary good. As a result, more people will buy your good also. Demand for your good will increase. So we will then shift your demand curve to the right. So if your good, Lamai, concerned goods demand shifts to the right, now tell me, what happens to the concerns good equilibrium price? What happens to the concerned goods equilibrium quantity? Yes, this is complementary. So complementary price is coming down. Therefore, the demand for your good will increase. Which one is the answer? Both will increase. Answer number 4. Where will I upload this recording? This recording will be uploaded on YouTube. When will I upload this recording? That is the question. Whenever I feel like uploading. What movie am I going to watch? I'm going to watch Durandar 2. The latest start time is at 10. I was looking for a movie that starts at 10:30, but no 10:30. Okay, question 9. The market demand curve for a certain product is drawn in the diagram below. Between the price of 10 to 8, the demand curve shown in the above diagram is. You don't have to do any calculation, Lamai. You all know this top portion of the demand curve is what? Elastic, inelastic, unitary, perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic. What is that? The top portion we have learned, Lamai, is elastic. No? Remember, right at the middle point, it is unitary. Here it is 1. This part is inelastic. This one is perfectly inelastic. This one is perfectly elastic. You all know the value of PED changes along the curve. So no, nothing to calculate, nothing to do, Lama. You can directly say at that top part, it is relatively elastic. Don't say perfectly elastic, relatively elastic. So 9, answer number 2. For supply, how does it change along the curve? We went through it last week, right? I showed you inelastic, elastic, how it changes. Question 10. Yeah, between the two prices. So in that entire range, it is elastic. So you can say it is elastic. Then question 10. Demand and supply is given. Total surplus at equilibrium. Total surplus, total economic surplus. A very easy question. I think it's a free mark, but you have to do a little bit of working. Can you all tell me, Lama, how much is the equilibrium price and quantity? Equilibrium price and quantities. Price is 8, quantity 24. Okay. How much is the maximum demand price and minimum supply price? Maximum demand price 20, minimum supply price 5. Okay. So then this area is consumer surplus. This area is produce surplus. Calculate the two, add the two together. How much is consumer surplus? 144. Okay. How much is produce surplus? These are easy ones, so I'm not calculating, right? I know you all know to do this. 36. So therefore, the total surplus is 108 number. Free mark in your A-level paper, but you have to do a little bit of working. Yes, MCQ, if you want, you can directly find the area of the triangle. But for paper 2, don't do that. Then question 11. Assume that the cross elasticity of demand between rice and bread is 3. An increase in the price of rice causes the demand for bread to rise by 75%. What is the change in price of rice? So how do you calculate XCD, Lamai? XCD is the percentage change in quantity demanded. So here it's the percentage change in quantity demanded of bread divided by the percentage change in quantity demanded for the, percentage change in price for the other good, that is rice. So question has told us XCD is 3, plus 3. Be very careful with the plus and the minus. They're saying like percentage change in quantity demand is 75%. Okay. So can you all calculate and tell me, Lama, how much should the percentage change in price of rice be? If you work around, it has to be 25%, no? So this has to be a 25%. So then, Lamai, look for an answer where you have a 25% increase in the price of rice. Now you have to be a little bit good with percentages. So 50, 25% of 50 is Lamai 12.5. Then 50 has to go to 62.5. It's not going. 60 to 72, no, 60, 25% is 15. 60 has to go to 75. Wrong. 75, 25% is you get a very ugly number, no? We'll keep that. 80 to 105, no, 80, 25% is 20, it has to go to 100. Last one, very obvious answer. They know, no, you don't have a calculator. So 100 going to 125, that is a 25% increase in the price of rice. Okay, easy one, as long as you can get it. Then question 12. Market equilibrium price for wheat flour is 350. Market equilibrium quantity is 30. Which of the following policies would create an excess demand for wheat flour? First of all, can you tell me, Lama, right now, how much is the equilibrium price in the market? Right now, equilibrium price is 350. Okay. Equilibrium quantity is 30. So for you to have an excess demand, Lamai, the price has to be below the equilibrium or above the equilibrium. Price has to be below, right? Then only you have excess demand. So below means maybe if there is like a price ceiling, right? A maximum price, then you can go there. So I will cut off the answers that says price flow, because that doesn't make sense. Those are minimum prices. No, I'll cut off that. So now look for a price ceiling or a maximum price below 350. Which one? Answer 1, no? 330. So if you put a maximum price of 330, then Anna, you will have excess demand. No point putting a maximum price of 400 or 375. Because if you put a maximum price of 400 or 375, Lama, you will come back to equilibrium. Yeah, no calculation. They are asking you when will there be excess demand? There will be excess demand, Lama, when the price is below equilibrium. These questions are easy, Lama. That's the point that I'm trying to make here also. Now, some of you, Lama, you overthink, you overcomplicate. Now, in the fast track paper, yes, I confuse you and make it hard. The whole point of that is, Lama, when you get an easy question, it has to be actually be very easy. Maximum demand is above equilibrium, no, Lama. Not maximum demand, maximum price. Maximum demand price, yes, that is the topmost point. Maximum price is below equilibrium. Unit number 3. 12 is 1. Then 13. Given a downward sloping demand curve and an upward sloping supply curve, a unit tax of a commodity will. So what will a tax do? Raise producer surplus? No. Producer surplus will come down when you have a tax. Wrong. Raise consumer surplus? No. Consumer surplus also comes down. Causes a shift of the supply curve to the right? No, my supply decreases. That is a leftward shift. Raises the price by more than the tax? Can the price increase by more than the tax limit? If you put a tax of 10 rupees, now, for example, if the government, okay, let's say government comes and tells me, Arshad, look here, for every fast track student you have, I am charging a 500 rupee tax. If the government is charging me a 500 rupee tax, will I increase your class fees more than 500? That doesn't make sense. If government charges a 500 rupee tax, maximum I will increase your class fees by 500 to cover that tax. Or maybe I increase it a little and I bear part of it, you bear part of it. So raise the price more than the tax. No, it will raise the price now less than the tax, because the raise in the price is the consumer's tax burden. So right now, your class fees for fast track program, 5,500, all 12 classes, book, everything included. So if the government comes and says, Arshad, you have to pay a 500 rupee tax. And next month, if I say, Lamai class fees 5,500, now class fees is 5,800, then tell me, Lamai, how much is the consumer tax burden in this situation? How much of the tax of that 500 are you all bearing? From that, if I make the class fees 5,800 next month, you all are bearing 300, right? That means now if you all are paying 5,800, after I pay 500 to the government, how much do I get? I get 5,300. Earlier I got 5,500. Now I get 5,300. Means how much is my tax burden? My tax burden is a 200. So the maximum your price can increase is by the amount of the tax limit. If the tax of 500 comes and if I am charging class fees 6,500, then I am doing something very cunning. Ideally, I have to maximum increase the class fees by 500 only. That means I'm putting the entire burden on you. So if you're perfectly inelastic, I will do that. But otherwise, the shifting happens. So answer is number 5. Again, not hard. Practically think you can get this level. Next one, question 14. The diagram above shows market demand and supply curve of corn. Suppose that the government introduces a minimum price to support corn farmers. What should the government do to maintain an effective minimum price of OP2? So when you have a minimum price, Lamai, what happens? Can I say how the producer surplus decrease? Lamai, that's a basic point, right? When you have a tax, Lamai, I hope you know the tax diagram. When you have a tax, look at consumer surplus after tax, producer surplus after tax. After tax, Lamai, producer surplus is less. That's a basic theory part. I'm not going there. Go to your note, you will have the letters and all of it, whatever you start. So what happens here, Lamai? If the government puts this, and if they want to kind of make it very effective and, help the producer really, there is an excess supply. What should they do, Lamai? This Q1 to Q2 excess supply, maybe they have to buy it. If they can buy the quantity between that and that, they can maybe export it or put it out later or do something they want. So answer could be buy quantity Q1 to Q3, a simple, normal, minimum price question. What can the government do? You can buy that excess. Then question number 2023. So I think we'll do 23 and we can finish. We'll see, depending on how long it takes. 2023, question 5. Which of the following is not a determinant of demand? Answer is number 3, previous one. Not a determinant of demand. Price of the substitute? Yes. Future price expectations? Yes. Price of complementary? Yes. Price of inputs used to produce? Price of inputs, that is a determinant of supply. So that is the one that is not a determinant. 3 mark, Lama, in your paper. Okay, so have you realized, Lama, in every single paper that you had, in most of the papers, The fifth question is one of the easiest ones. The very first question from unit number 2. I think the 2019 paper is where you had a bit of a tricky fifth question, where they started off with that price effect, income effect, substitution effect. But every other year, the fifth one was the easiest one. So yes, that could be a signal for the what's to come, but that's like a free mark in your paper always. Then question 6. Demand and supply curves equations are given. If the price of orange is set at 100, then there will be a what? So tell me now, at the price of 100, how much is the quantity demanded? 600 minus 5 into 100. So that is 500. QD is 100 units. At the price of 100, how much is the quantity supplied? Minus 240 plus 3 into 100. That is 300 minus 240. That is 60. So quantity demand is 100. Quantity supplied is only 60. There is an excess what? Excess demand or excess supply? There is excess demand. Now, demand is the one that is more. There is an excess demand. Excess demand of how much? Excess demand of simple question. I don't know. If you struggle with these questions, then there is actually a problem. If you're struggling with this, either you have properly memorized a unit 2 tute 10, you're wondering where in my tute we didn't have something like this. Obviously, this is not there in any teacher's tute. Right? So you can't forever or anyway, you can't memorize unit 2 or any other unit for this thing. For those who usual question I always get, so I have studied the unit, sir, but MCQs are very hard for me. MCQs are very hard for you because you have memorized the unit. Logically get the unit. These are simple free marks, I would say, in your A-level paper. If you get this type of questions in your A-level paper, you can be, laughing and smiling and jumping up and down in the exam hall. But if your face turns bad, there is a problem when you get this. Question 7. If both demand and supply increase simultaneously. Now, we did this question before also, right? Can you tell me now, which year did we have this? I drew that increase in demand and supply both. I told you quantity will definitely increase. Price can either increase, decrease, or remain. Same thing was there before. Can you tell me the year? 21? No, 21 I think was the price, no? 2020? 2020 question number 8, where I drew and showed you. There was a table, not a table. There was a question. Yeah. So which one's the answer? Now, same thing. If demand and supply both increase, we know quantity will definitely increase. Price depends on the magnitude. Which one increases more or less, that will affect the price. So answer could be number 3. So equilibrium price could either rise or fall or even remain unchanged, but equilibrium quantity will definitely increase. Answer 3, same question repeated, but they will repeat it in a little bit of a different way. Question 8. The two supply curves in the diagram are parallel in the price range between 30 to 40. Okay. If you look at the two curves, tell me which one is the elastic, which one is the inelastic one. Parallel, but from the starting point, you should say S1 is the elastic one, right? It has a negative A component. So S1 is elastic. S2 has a positive A component. S2 is your inelastic supply curve. So we'll just look at the answers and see what are they saying. The curve S1 is more price elastic than curve S2. Looks correct. We'll look at the others. Curve S2 is more price elastic. Is curve S2 more price elastic? No. Curve S1 and S2 have the same price elasticity. They won't love it, because this one will have more than one, this will be less than. Price elasticity values of curve S1 are positive. Okay. But less than 1. No, it is positive more than 1. Elastic is positive more than 1. So less than 1, wrong. Price elastic values of S2 are positive more than 1. No, S2 is less than 1. So answer number, but again, not a very hard question. Demand is there is no positive negative signs to identify. Supply elasticity is same. Like supply elasticity is always positive. Demand elasticity is always negative for a normal good. PED can be positive if it's a given good. Why 30 and 40? That is just given to complete the question. So they are saying between this price range 30 to 40, what is true? There's a question, have you made a book for past papers? I haven't made a book for past papers, but yeah. Third option happens in unitary. No. So you can't say S2, S1, S2 have the same last name. Again, no. Why won't the fifth one come now? Because fifth one has to be less than 1. So this one inelastic means PESs less than 1. If I want, I can make a past paper book because I have typed all the past papers. I just have to put it together and put it. But something I was thinking like for past papers, my objective is not to make money or anything. But for past papers, your current past paper book that you'll buy from bookshops comes from which year? 2016? The normal books that are published in this thing? 2009, really? Sometimes very hard. Like most of it, I think, is 2016. Because so many people keep asking me, sir, do you have this paper, that paper? Now, ideally, I have the past papers from 1998 onwards. I was thinking maybe on my end, and if 2009 is there, then that's okay, right? No, because I was thinking if the old papers are not able to be found, then maybe I will publish it and put it together. But I have shared the PDF papers. The PDF papers are there. I think WhatsApp group description. There is a link from 2002 or something. The PDFs are there. So you can even do those now. Based on where the curve starts, how to find last. We did that now. We have done that now. This is the 10th time I'm showing that. So if your curve starts at a negative A component, that's a elastic curve. If your curve starts at a positive way, that is inelastic. If your curve starts from the origin, that is unitary. Do we have to do the past papers now? If you have nothing else after you have finished, let's say from 2016 to 2025, you can go to, yeah, 2019 onwards, it's there on the Department of Examination website is there. But the old ones is what I'm saying. They don't put that. Okay. Then next one, question 9. If a firm wants to increase its revenue and knows its price loss or demand is equal to minus 0.83. So first of all, minus 0.82 is elastic or inelastic? Would you recommend purchasing model papers? There are no proper model papers now, English medium. It is inelastic. So inelastic, if you want to increase your revenue, what should you do? Do you increase price or decrease price? You have to increase price, right? Because when you increase price, QD will fall a little or a lot. Inelastic, when you increase price, QD falls a very little. Yeah. So then what happens? Your total revenue can. So what should they do? They should increase price because demand is inelastic. That is what they need to do. So 9 is number 4. Right. Then question number 10. In a competitive market, economic surplus is PED is negative means inelastic? No. PED is less than 1 means inelastic. PED is always negative for an offer. In a competitive market, economic surplus is maximized when? When is the economic surplus maximized? Economic surplus is consumer surplus and producer surplus. It will be the highest when you have what? When the market is at equilibrium. Compared to excess demand, excess supply, or whatever situations, when the market is at equilibrium is where my economic surplus is maximized. So which answer talks about something like market is being at equilibrium? Number? Could be number. No. The quantity supplied equals quantity demand. That can be the answer. Then question number 11. The demand for good X is price inelastic and income inelastic. Good X is also a substitute of good Y. Identify good X from the table. Good X is price inelastic. That means that my PED has to be less than 1. Income inelastic. Now, income, now when you talk about income elasticity of demand, we don't say elastic inelastic. But what does income inelastic mean? Same thing. Income elasticity less than 1. YED less than 1. And good X is a substitute for good Y. If good X is a substitute for good Y, that means your XED has to be positive or negative. Substitute. XED has to be positive, greater than 0. They haven't said close substitute or anything. So look for an answer that goes in line with this. PED negative, all the answers PED is negative. YED less than 1. So I will cut off answer 2. YED negative, no. YED less than 1, no. Then XED, oh no, YED negative, you can go there, no? Have I typed the question wrong? This YED negative means it's inferior though. Tips to remember coefficients and type of good. It's a very simple part. If you are struggling with that, you have not learned it properly. Just go to the basics. It's something that you can remember in 10 minutes if you go through a proper note. Cross elasticity, positive. So I will cut off answer 3, 4, 5. That is definitely gone. You have 1 and 2 left. Most correct answer, you can go with number 1, right? So 1 is the one that has PED less than 1, YED less than 1, but less than 1 is negative also. And anyway, inelastic means less than 1, negative also, but less than inferior, less than -1 inferior. And XED positive could be that 11. Answer number 1. Yes, could be an inferior. Then going the next one, 11 was 1, 12. If a government passes, and why not 2? Can't be 2, because 2 has YED 1.25. Your YED is income inelastic. So income inelastic means it has to be less than 1. If a government passes an effective minimum wage law, the resulting change in employment will be the smallest one. Now, this minimum wage story also I touch upon a little in unit number 3 when I talk to you all about minimum prices. So a minimum wage lamai is very similar to a minimum price, but put in a factor market. So now this is the demand for labor. This is the supply of labor. So this is the equilibrium wage. Now think about tea plantations. So in tea plantations, now let's say minimum wage is 1,500 rupees per day. So if you put a minimum wage of, let's say, 2,500, so many people are willing to work. Supply of labor increases. Supply of labor is from households. Right? We love to go and work because we are getting 2,500. But demand for labor will be less. Who demands for labor? Business firms. So that is the excess supply of labor. Excess supply of labor is what we call unemployment. So many people are willing to work, but not much people are being hired. So they are asking you, if a government passes a minimum wage, okay, the resulting change in employment will be the smallest way. When do you think, Lama, this excess supply and all of that will be very less? When you have what? If the demand is comparatively inelastic, it's going to be less, right? Because think, if you have a very steep demand curve, okay, if your demand is inelastic, you have now you should be able to picture this, Lama. When you have a very steep demand curve, just because the price increases, the quantity demanded of labor won't fall a lot, no? Quantity demanded labor will fall a very little. So still the firms are hiring almost the same amount of labor. So that is where the change in employment will be the lowest, where the demand for labor is inelastic. But if the demand for labor was very flat, then if the price increase, QD for labor falls a lot. So if you can picture that, you can get to that answer, right? That is question 12. Then question 13. Question 13 says, assume that the market for eggs, excess supply is small means there is less unemployment. Okay. Assume that the market for eggs is there, supply is there, government puts a deficiency payment. What is the cost of the government? So you all are going to give me numbers though. Can you tell me, Lamai, so you don't even need the equilibrium price for this. You have a demand, you have supply. Government is putting, Lamai, a minimum price at 52 rupees. Can you tell me at price 52, how much is the quantity supplied? Put 52 to the QS equation. You get 42. Yeah. So, okay. Can you tell me to buy 42 units, what is the price the consumer is willing to pay? So put quantity 42 to the demand equation. Demand equation is QD equals 140 minus 2P. So say 42 equals 140 minus 2P and find the price. 46 or 36. What's the number? 46? Okay. So then per unit, how much of a deficiency payment should the government give? Per unit, they have to give a deficiency payment of 52 minus 46, a 6 rupee deficiency payment into how many units? Into 42 units. So how much is the total deficiency payment? 6 into 42, you get. It's 49. Because I'm taking the answers that was in the. Okay, so I'll just recheck the answers again. I took the answers, whoever who gave me on the chat box. Rechecking the numbers. When the minimum price is 52, tell me, Lamai, at that minimum price, how much is the quantity supplied? So take the QS equation, put 52. So QS equals minus 10 plus 52. How much do you get? 42. That is correct, right? Then at price, to buy 42 units, how much is the consumers willing to pay? So here 42 is equal to 140 minus 2P. How much is the P? 2P equals 98. P is equal to 49. No, not 46. So P is equal to 49. So then per unit, your deficiency payment is 3 rupees. 3 rupees into 42 units, that is 126. So answer number 1. Again, not the easiest of questions. You have to know deficiency payment, not a hard one also, but you have a lot of small things to calculate if you want to get to that answer. Right. So 13, number 2. We'll do this and we will finish off. Question 14. In order to reduce the price of an essential consumer good, the government has decided to provide a subsidy. As a result, the price of the subsidy will fall the most when price elastic supply is what? So supply price is falling the most means, Lamai, that is the consumer's benefit, right? So if the price falls, the consumer will benefit. So they are asking, when will the price fall the most? So in other words, they are asking, when is the consumer subsidy benefit the highest? Consumer subsidy benefit is the highest when demand is higher, the inelasticity, higher the benefit. When demand is inelastic, right, that could be a better answer. If there is no answer that talks about demand being inelastic, maybe you can go for an answer that says supply is elastic, if this is not there. So see, any answer? Supply is elastic is there. Demand is inelastic is there, right? So when there is demand being inelastic, that could be a better one. So you can go with answer number 4. Question number 15 is the last question. Why not 1? If 4 was not there, you could have gone 11. So first you look at the consumer side. You look at the demand side first, because they're talking about the consumer's benefit. No? So therefore you look at the demand side first. If that is not there, then you look at the supply side. There is no question 15, right? Class, I'm ending it Lamai at 9:30 because I said I had a movie to go to, right? So I'm ending it there. I will take questions ideally next class because I need to run now. So what we will do is on your end, we have 2 more years left. That is 2024-25. We can finish that in the next half an hour in the next class. And then we will move into the essay questions. Doubts, you can send me a message on WhatsApp and keep. I will get back to you. Right? See you all. Bye-bye.